To say that people are clamoring for information on the supposed Nintendo Switch Mini and Nintendo Switch Pro, I think would be a bit of an understatement. Anytime there's a new rumor, a new report that comes out about these revisions to the Nintendo Switch, people seem to just flock to it. It seems like there's a lot of people who want to see a sort of revision to the Nintendo Switch hardware. And honestly, I'm one of those people. I think hardware revisions can be very interesting. I was one of the people that picked up the new 3DS on day one. Why did I get it? I don't know. It had the little analog nub. I thought it was pretty cool, but you're definitely seeing a shift in home console mentality when it comes to the home console market itself. You're now starting to see things like revisions happen with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. The Xbox One X really sort of transformed the landscape of how Xbox was envisioned during this generation, as going from an underpowered system with the Xbox One comparatively to the PS4 to now the strongest system on the market with the best ability to play third-party games. So a lot of people like to see hardware revisions, and there's been a lot of rumors and a lot of speculation about the Nintendo Switch Pro and the Nintendo Switch Mini. Last week on the channel, we of course talked about the latest reports, but since then, there's been two new reports, and Nintendo themselves have come out and said something about their vision for the new hardware and sort of alluded to what the Nintendo Switch Pro and Nintendo Switch Mini could potentially be coming out with. So I wanted to sort of go over all this new information, as now there's stuff to talk about, because the Nintendo Switch is in an interesting position. We saw some stuff during Nintendo's financial report that just happened that also shows the future of the Nintendo Switch. So what's going on with these hardware revisions? What did Nintendo say about these hardware revisions? What are the latest reports, and what do I think about all of this? Sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's jump into all the madness that is the Nintendo Switch Mini and the Nintendo Switch Pro.
Hey, RGT85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards! So to catch you briefly up to speed, we of course have been talking about Nintendo Switch revisions since the Wall Street Journal came out and said that there would be two Nintendo Switch revisions coming sometime potentially in 2019. They reported this towards the tail end of 2018, and since then we've seen a lot of different information. Of course, now one of the main focuses is on the Nintendo Switch Mini. There's been a lot of reports coming out that the Nintendo Switch Mini could be seeing a summertime release. Well, since all of those initial reports, there have been two additional reports that we definitely have to talk about, and one of them ties in to Nintendo's financial briefing. But the first one I want to talk about was done about 2 days ago by Bloomberg. Bloomberg went on record as saying that they envision the Nintendo Switch Mini, according to sources that they heard, to be released by the end of June. And that's actually very interesting to me, because obviously that would sort of give a window for an announcement potentially at E3 2019. Now, why would they be looking at the end of June? I think there's one major reason, and that has to be with Super Mario Maker 2. Super Mario Maker 2 has now been confirmed to be releasing at the end of June. So to coincide that with a Nintendo Switch Mini system, I think would make a lot of sense. Super Mario Maker, the original game, was very, very popular, and since Nintendo has relaxed their policies on streaming games and uploading game footage, I think that really opens up the world of possibilities for Super Mario Maker 2. Content creators don't have to worry about things like getting their videos copyright claimed by Nintendo anymore. They can stream this game all they like, and with the creativity of people in the Nintendo community, whether it's good or bad, looking at that Smash Brothers video I did, there's going to be a lot of awesome levels to play. So to sort of release a Nintendo Switch Mini to coincide with the launch of Super Mario Maker 2 really makes sense to me. There's even pre-order bonuses for Super Mario Maker 2 that include a stylus, and I think a lot of people are going to want a stylus to play this game on their Nintendo Switch. Obviously, when you're creating these levels, it's going to be a lot easier to use something like a stylus to create these levels when you're playing in handheld mode than to use the in-system or in-game menu. I think the in-game menu is definitely more refined, and I think you're going to have a lot more potential of what you can do with this game, but I think a stylus would be a welcome addition. The Nintendo Switch does have a touchscreen, so to launch a Nintendo Switch Mini alongside of this system really makes a lot of sense to me. But then you have the fact that during Nintendo's financial briefing, they of course talked about things like system sales, and they even commented on the potential of a new system to be unveiled at E3 2019. Now, the main thing to take away from Nintendo Switch system sales is that the system is still selling very, very well. It has now officially outsold the N64 with nearly 35 million units sold to date. So within 2 years, they managed to sell 35 million systems, which is very, very impressive, especially coming off of the Wii U. The Wii U did not sell anywhere near this. The Wii U sold about 14 million systems worldwide in its entire life cycle. So to see a major bounce back like this is very, very impressive. When you're looking at game sales as well, there's a lot of things to talk about within the game sales. You have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe coming in at nearly 17 million copies sold worldwide. You have Super Mario Maker with over 14 million. You have Smash Brothers with nearly 14 million, which is just absolutely crazy considering the game launched in December. Breath of the Wild is closing in on 13 million. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are over 10 million. Splatoon 2 is closing in on 9 million. But one of the biggest surprises to me has to be New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe coming in at 3.3 million sold worldwide. Now, you guys know I was not a huge fan of that game. I felt like they should have brought over other games, maybe a game like Xenoblade Chronicles X or even Super Mario 3D World. But obviously, I had to put a sock in my mouth when it comes to this because people are definitely interested in seeing this game on the Nintendo Switch, and it really sort of gave the game a new spurt of life because it only sold about 6 million on the Wii U. So to see that it sell over half of that in just a few months on the Nintendo Switch is admittedly very impressive. Now, of course, Nintendo did actually speak about a future hardware revision for the Nintendo Switch during this financial briefing as well. During the investors meeting, President Furukawa basically said that Nintendo is always looking at hardware-related things and hardware-related things when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, but there would be no announcement of new Nintendo Switch hardware at E3 2019. Now, on the surface, that looks pretty cut and dry, but I think there's actually some different things to look at with this statement. First and foremost, of course, Nintendo is always looking at different hardware stuff. As I'm doing the 32X book, it's really interesting to see from Sega themselves, people that worked at Sega, higher ups in Sega, how early the 32X was in conceptual development, when the first time they saw this stuff was, as opposed to how when the system launched. I'm talking, years here. I'm not talking months, I'm talking years. So pretty much whenever a system is done, the hardware division of a video game company is always looking at either revising the hardware, so what they can do with the hardware in the future, or looking at the new piece of hardware. So to say that Nintendo is always looking at revisions and always looking at updating hardware is just a very basic statement. But the interesting part, of course, would have to be that there's not going to be a new announcement at E3 2019 for Nintendo Switch hardware. So does that mean that something isn't coming? I don't necessarily think it does at all, because you have to look at when Nintendo tends to talk about systems. Yes, sometimes they unveil it at E3, but when did they unveil the Nintendo Switch? Was that during E3? No, it was on the middle of a random day where they talked about, hey, here's the Nintendo Switch, and they did this whole video presentation on the system, a 3-minute roughly presentation on it, and then they just sort of said, okay, now speculate on it, get to thinking about it, and it was just like, wow, this company just doesn't go by the norms. I don't think E3 hardware announcements are quite as impactful anymore just due to the rise of social media and due to the rise of the fact that you can get information on your cell phone now, you can get information on your tablet, on your PC, and you have so many people talking about this information. Do you really need to do it on the grand stage of E3? I don't necessarily think so. I think E3 definitely holds a place in video game announcements though, especially when it comes to new games. I think there's still a lot of buzz and flair from that because the whole, media outlets are looking at E3. It's the only time when you see major publications cover something in the realm of video games. So I definitely think E3 is still important, but I don't think it's necessarily important to launch a hardware revision or to talk about a hardware revision at E3. Now, what's very interesting about all of this is after this announcement was made by Nintendo, Neki went on record, which of course is a Japanese publication who has been heavily covering all this Nintendo Switch related revisions, went on record as doubling down and saying that the Nintendo Switch Mini would be coming by the end of June. And the E3 announcement doesn't really have any merit. And honestly, I sort of think that makes sense, to be perfectly honest with you guys. If they were to announce a new hardware revision for the Nintendo Switch at E3, and then it comes out at the end of June, you really don't have that much time for things like pre-orders and to build up hype about this system and really unveil it. Could Nintendo do something next month with the system? That way to give it a nearly 2-month window if it were to launch at the end of June alongside of Super Mario Maker 2, like a lot of people are starting to speculate, myself included. I think so. I think that gives you a much wider window of opportunity. Now, what's very interesting about all of this stuff is the fact that Bloomberg, which is the article that was published 2 days ago, actually spoke about the Nintendo Switch Pro. Let's not forget about the Nintendo Switch Pro model, because a lot of people are interested in the Switch Mini as sort of a secondary Nintendo Switch, or maybe to get 3DS people over to the system. But the Nintendo Switch Pro could be the system that makes people want to update their system. Now, Bloomberg went on record as saying that they have heard that it will be a smaller incremental upgrade for the Nintendo Switch Pro, and they haven't heard anything about a new robust hardware thing that Neki sort of alluded to. So now you're starting to get a lot of different things in the Switch community. You're starting to get people that feel like the Neki report was right, saying that there would be a substantially more powerful Switch next generation hardware, and then you have people thinking thinking more along the lines of something like an incremental upgrade. I'm definitely in the incremental upgrade camp. I think something like the PS4 to the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One S to the Xbox One X, those are incremental upgrades. Granted, you could see the improvements that they made within these systems, especially when you're playing third-party games. But to me, that's an incremental upgrade. That is an upgrade that isn't all that big, but you could definitely see a difference. If you're playing a PS4 versus a PS4 Pro, you could see the improvements on the PS4 Pro, but that doesn't mean that the PS4 version of the same game that you're playing is inherently a bad thing. All I know is, though, is that this is a very exciting time. We are now leading up to E3. May is obviously going to be a very big month for video game news. We're going to have potential E3 leaks and all this stuff. So it's just very fun. It's fun to talk about these things. It's fun to speculate about these things. And it's fun to look at how Nintendo sort of words stuff. Yeah, they're not going to announce any new Nintendo Switch hardware at E3, but are they going to announce it beforehand? Or maybe a little bit after? Is it going to launch alongside of Super Mario Maker 2? It is coming with a stylus. I don't know, but it's just very fun stuff. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think of everything. What do you think of the Nintendo Switch system sales? What do you think about these conflicting reports that we're getting from places like Bloomberg and Necky? And what do you think about President Furukawa's statement on no new Nintendo Switch hardware at E3? Let me know in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel. I'm actually working on a Dragon's Dogma review right now. I need to start playing that game some more. It's just been very crazy here at RGT headquarters. We have a new addition to the RGT arcade with the Final Fight arcade cabinet. Still trying to find that Mortal Kombat one. Third time's a charm. Hopefully I can track one of those down. And as always, guys, appreciate you watching this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.